You're walking through Buenos Aires at the start of the 20th century. The streets don't feel Latin American. They feel European. Wide boulevards, stone buildings, cafes filled with immigrants who crossed the Atlantic with nothing and found opportunity waiting for them. This is Argentina at its peak. By 1913, Argentina is one of the richest countries on earth, richer than Germany, richer than France, richer than Italy. Its economy is booming on beef, grain, and global trade. British capital flows in. Railways spread across the country. Wages are high. The middle class is growing fast. This is not a poor nation trying to catch up. This is a country that believes the future belongs to it. People don't ask whether Argentina will dominate the century. They assume it will. And when a country believes prosperity is permanent, discipline starts to feel unnecessary. The government spends confidently. Social programs expand. Jobs are protected. Subsidies grow. The logic sounds reasonable. If the country is rich, why shouldn't everyone feel rich? To pay for it, the state borrows, and then it prints. At first, nothing breaks. Growth continues. People spend more. The peso still works. Inflation exists, but it feels manageable, almost harmless. And that's the mistake, because inflation doesn't destroy trust overnight. It erodes it slowly. Businesses begin raising prices to protect themselves from tomorrow. Workers demand higher wages just to stay even. The government prints more money to cover promises it already made. Each step feels temporary. Each decision feels justified. But over time, something changes. People stop saving in pesos. Then they stop thinking in pesos. Then they stop trusting pesos. Dollars start appearing everywhere, hidden in homes, locked in safes, passed quietly between families, not as an investment, but as protection. Argentina becomes a country with two currencies, one everyone uses, and one everyone believes in. Once that happens, the system is already broken. It just hasn't collapsed yet. Argentina isn't heading toward crisis because of one bad leader or one bad policy. It's heading there because early success taught the wrong lesson. It taught the country that growth forgives everything. That limits don't apply. That money is just paper, and paper can always be printed. But no economy survives once people believe its money won't hold value tomorrow. And Argentina is about to learn that lesson the hardest way possible. The collapse doesn't arrive quietly. It arrives all at once. By the late 1980s, Argentina is no longer managing inflation. It's chasing it. Prices don't rise every year anymore. They rise every month. Then every week. Then every single day. This is what hyperinflation really does. It doesn't just destroy prices. It destroys time. Planning becomes impossible. Contracts mean nothing. Saving becomes irrational. The peso turns into something you hold only long enough to get rid of it. In 1989, inflation explodes past 3,000%. Generations of savings disappear in months. The middle class doesn't slowly decline. It evaporates. So the government does something radical. It admits the peso is the problem. In the 1990s, Argentina ties its currency to the US dollar. 1 peso equals $1. No printing, no flexibility, absolute discipline. And for a moment, it works. Inflation collapses. Confidence returns. Dollars flow back in. Buenos Aires feels modern again. Stable. Predictable. It looks like Argentina has finally escaped. But the fix comes with a hidden cost. By giving up control over its currency, Argentina gives up its ability to adapt. When the dollar strengthens, Argentina becomes expensive. When exports weaken, it can't devalue. When recession hits, it can't respond. The system only works if nothing goes wrong. Something always goes wrong. By the end of the decade, debt piles up, growth slows, investors quietly pull their money out, and the promise holding everything together, the fixed peso, becomes impossible to keep. Then comes 2001. Banks close their doors. Withdrawals are frozen. Money people thought they owned suddenly becomes unreachable. Crowds flood the streets. Protests turn violent. Presidents resign in helicopters. Argentina defaults on $100 billion of debt, the largest sovereign default in history at the time. And then comes the final betrayal. Savings held in dollars are forcibly converted into pesos, not at market rates, at political ones. Overnight, life savings are erased by law. From this moment on, something breaks permanently. It's no longer just that the currency is unstable. It's that the state cannot be trusted. Every future promise is judged through this memory. Every reform feels temporary. Every stabilization plan sounds fake. Argentina doesn't recover from this crisis. It internalizes it, and that changes everything. After the collapse, Argentina isn't just broke. It's isolated. Global markets don't see a country recovering. They see a country that panics, defaults, and rewrites the rules when pressure builds. Borrowing becomes expensive, then impossible. So when the next slowdown arrives, Argentina turns to the only lender left, the International Monetary Fund. These deals are always sold as rescues. In reality, they are lifelines with conditions. Argentina receives dollars, the one currency its economy still trusts. In return, it promises discipline, spending cuts, fiscal targets, structural reform. On paper, it looks responsible. In practice, it never fixes the core problem. Because IMF programs assume confidence will return quickly. That trust can be rebuilt in a few quarters, that the peso just needs time. It doesn't work that way. The moment IMF dollars arrive, pressure eases. Reserves stabilize. The peso stops falling. Politicians breathe again. And then the old incentives return. Spending quietly expands. Controls creep back in. Capital begins to leave. The peso weakens again. The IMF money doesn't rebuild the system. It delays the next collapse. In 2018, Argentina receives the largest IMF bailout in history. $57 billion. It doesn't save the economy. It barely slows the fall because dollars don't solve a credibility problem. They expose it. And while policymakers talk in pesos, the country lives in dollars. Homes are priced in dollars. Cars are priced in dollars. Savings are kept in dollars. Contracts are written in dollars. The peso exists, but it isn't trusted. Children grow up watching their parents convert salaries the moment they're paid. They learn early that holding pesos is a risk, not a neutral choice. When inflation hits 50%, 80%, even higher, the reaction is automatic. Spend fast. Convert immediately. Escape early. From the outside, this looks irrational. From the inside, it's survival. But this survival instinct creates a trap. The moment the government announces a new plan, people hedge against failure. The peso weakens before the policy fails. Expectations become self-fulfilling. Argentina isn't short of talent or resources. It's trapped in a system where trust once broken never fully returns. By now, the pattern is complete. Inflation rises, the peso weakens. People rush to dollars, the government intervenes. Controls tighten. Confidence collapses even faster. Then comes the reset. A new plan. A new promise. A new beginning. And every time, it fails sooner than the last. This isn't because Argentinians don't understand economics. It's because they understand it too well. They've learned that discipline is temporary, but collapse is permanent. That any stabilization can be reversed by the next election. That laws don't outlive political pressure. So trust never fully returns. And without trust, a currency cannot function. Argentina doesn't suffer inflation because it prints too much money. It prints too much money because no one is willing to hold it. Once expectations flip, policy becomes reactive. The state is always late, always behind, always fighting the previous crisis. The peso becomes a bridge currency, something you hold briefly, only to cross into dollars. And a bridge that everyone rushes to cross will always collapse. Argentina isn't failing repeatedly. It's trapped in a system that rewards escape over investment. Growth requires patience. Patience requires trust. Argentina has neither. And this is where the story stops being only about Argentina. Because this is what happens when a country breaks the invisible contract between the state and its citizens. The promise that money today will still mean something tomorrow. Once that contract breaks, everything becomes harder. Reform, growth, sacrifice, long-term thinking. You cannot build a future in a currency nobody believes in. Argentina didn't collapse overnight. It drifted. It didn't fail because it was unlucky. It failed because success convinced it that limits didn't apply. That is why Argentina never escapes economic crisis. Not because it cannot change, but because trust, once destroyed, is the hardest thing an economy can ever rebuild. And until that happens, the crisis isn't coming. It's already here.